Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. And today is a very exciting day. I have our CISO, Steve Coyne, with me here today, or as we like to call him, hashtag CISO Steve. And then I also have Erin Hicks here with us, our SVP of Client Success and also our partnerships. She does all the things. And I'm super excited to have you guys here today to talk about our new offering, which is going to be our vCISO advisory but Cohort edition. So we're super excited to launch this new program that's going to really help credit unions come together and get the security advice, help, collaboration that they desperately need. And so, Steve, Erin, I want to throw this out to you guys. Erin, maybe you could start us off. How did we come about with this program? Where did the impetus come from? And why are we doing this? How is this going to help credit unions?
So we're super excited about it because as working very closely with Steve, with our entire CISO team, I hear a lot of times how our small credit unions, even working in the credit union industry, a lot of those, I'll say smaller credit unions initially was where this kind of thought, this idea came from. I think all credit unions can benefit from it. But what we found was that the small credit unions who have, and Steve knows all the facts and figures, I'm going to tap on him in a minute here for it, but they have a very kind of small, they're smaller asset size, but cumulatively, they're responsible for a big amount of the credit union's assets in the United States. And so from that and their responsibility, their assets impacting how much they actually have that they can invest and how much they can spend and how they can be prepared and stay on top of what's required of them from a regulatory perspective, whether it's state or federally chartered. All of this is like, you need to take a big sigh because there's a lot that's being asked of them, even though their budget may be very small. And so what we were kind of brainstorming on is how could we help impact and mature any size credit union, but specifically what the intent initially was the smaller credit unions, so they could gather together in a cohort, a group of individuals with a CISO, a security specialist to help talk them through different things that are impacting them, what the requirements mean, how they can be prepared, and be able to share that cost throughout a group of organizations. Steve, do you want to share a little bit about where your numbers were kind of impactful for, I think, myself and anybody that you shared them with, on what this really means?
Yeah. So what it came to, I sat down and did some research trying to understand, because we were trying to figure out how every credit union of every size needs a security program. We all still have the same requirements that we actually have to meet, no matter what the size is. We still have to meet GLBA, Part 748. We have to do those things that are there. And there's the things that we need to do just to secure what's there for our members, right? So we have to be doing the right things. And so I was doing some research and found, 65% of the credit unions are 100 million in assets or less. That actually even gets, bigger. We get over 80% of the credit unions when we look at 250 million or less. But we have that 100 million asset group that represents almost $90 billion of assets, right? So if you look at it from the NCUA's perspective, that's $90 billion of the insurance fund that needs to, be covered in some of those things. But really what it came down to, and they're all needing work. They're needing somebody to help guide where we're going in a lot of those things. Somebody who can take and interpret what the requirements are to what needs to be done, take what actually needs to be done from a security perspective to get from being reactive to a breach to being proactive so it doesn't happen. And there's just not enough money in the budget to be able to make those things happen. So how can we make that better? How can we make it where it becomes reachable for everybody to be able to do that? And we were exploring other different ideas, and this particular idea came up, and it just made so much sense to actually work on getting groups of folks together, and being able to provide a service within that group that now is more affordable because it can be split amongst the members of that cohort, to be able to do that, and everyone gains, because we're all trying to get to the same place. We're just at a different place on the journey. And if we can get folks together that are really close and similar into where they are in the journey, then we're all working on it together. And the more we collaborate, the better. And a big thing for me, a part of the passion part of this whole thing is I really believe in small credit unions. I really believe in credit unions as a whole. And it's not about getting all the small credit unions to merge and roll up. They all have a distinct community and a distinct purpose, and they need to exist distinctly and separately, not just about rolling them all together. And so if we can find a way to allow the small credit unions to stay independent and be able to serve what they're doing and work together with some other members of the community to actually get better and meet the needs of those members and meet the security needs of the institution as a whole, that's where it is that we're going with this.
I love how you put that, Steve. I think the way you expressed it really is part of one of the reasons why I'm so excited about it, right? Our goal is to take organizations really of any size, right, from being reactive to being proactive. And that's such a big part of it. And why wouldn't we do that together if we can, right? I mean, it's such a strong and collaborative way to come together to really enhance our industry and help protect our members, right? With that being said, Aaron, can you dive into some of the specifics for us? What is going to happen with these cohorts? If somebody already has a vCISO engagement with Pure IT, can they also join a cohort? How is that going to work? Let's dive into that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the cohort will be depending on the size of the organization, and really trying to align some of the key technology functions, whether they're state or federally chartered. So really trying to boil down some of the basics so that they can all benefit from each other. So aside from kind of collaborating with certain groups of credit unions that want to participate in the cohorts, there would be collaborative monthly discussions. So that's a vCISO, a security specialist discussing hot topics, what's happening, what we need to be aware of, what's going on. That's where they would come, individuals from the organizations would come and attend these, ask lots of questions, what's going on, what are they seeing? And this is a safe space, right? So this is somewhere where there's mutual NDAs, there's a lot of the kind of background, I'll say administrative, but also where we can all come together and have this safe space. An NCUISO membership, because that is a key piece of the information sharing, is a requirement to be a part of that. And so an NCUISO membership is included in the cohort, as well as a virtually facilitated tabletop exercise once per year. So that's going to also be another requirement that needs to happen at all of our organizations. And so we want to make sure that at the very minimum, being a part of this cohort is helping you achieve some level of maturity that your organization may or may not be achieving today. And so that would be if you maybe don't have a vCISO advisor that's already involved in your organization. Now, to your point, Julia, maybe you do have one and you still want to be a part of the cohort. That's absolutely something that we can dive into. And what we would do is, based on your vCISO advisor engagement, separate some time out so you can also be a part of the cohort. And it would just be a little bit of readjusting on your engagement there, but definitely an inclusion. And we want to be make sure that everybody can benefit from each other's kind of mind share and collaboration, really be part of what our industry is all about.
100%. Go ahead, Steve.
If you've heard me speak at any of the conferences and everything, one of the things I bring up all the time is that as individual credit unions, we're a bunch of middle school defenses playing an NFL offense. And if we don't get together and work on our plans together, instead of doing them little individual efforts, we'll always end up being like that. We need to get together, share information together, share tactics together, share tips together, share what's going on with compliance and risk and fraud. We need to share these things with each other so that we can all learn from each other, not just from me or one of the other CISOs, right? We need to learn this from each other and what it is that we see happening and going on in our environment. So I think it's beneficial to everyone, whether you're in whether you have a CISO engagement with us now or not, to be able to be part of more information sharing. And maybe even within the ISAL, right, it can become a large group. Maybe you need to be a little more intimate, right? So we can get some smaller cohorts, so we can get a little more intimate, a little more tactical with some of those things.
Well, and to your point, Aaron, we're being grouped by similar factors, right? So not only is this enhanced collaboration, but it's enhanced collaboration with organizations of a similar size that maybe have the same struggles that you do. So it can be super helpful to bounce ideas off of a similar group. And then I'm just going to jump in right here with a little shameless plug for CU Intersect. You've heard Steve talking about our conferences, and CU Intersect is our credit union cybersecurity conference that we co-host with the NCUISO. This year, we'll be back in Newport Beach from October 21st to the 23rd, and you can save on early bird registration through the end of July. So don't forget, make sure to register. And kind of as we wrap up today, I think if you guys want to share why you're so excited about this program. I mean, obviously there's a lot here. There's so many reasons why we can be excited, but Aaron, what really makes you excited about this new product?
For me, taking the barriers out of being able to be security minded. We all know that we need to be aware of security. And I think for some organizations, specifically smaller ones that I've engaged with or that I've interacted with, there's that concern around, I just don't know what I don't know. Where do I even start? What do I need to do? This is a great first step. I think from a price perspective, it's attainable for our smaller organizations. And it really takes out the guesswork of like, I don't know what I don't know, and I'm nervous about it, but you can't turn a blind eye, right? We're all being held to the same thing, as Steve said. And so the best way to do it is just to take a step forward. And I think this offering is really going to help a lot of organizations expand what they might not know and how they can proactively address things into the future.
Yeah, and I really want to see us get to that point of being actually proactive about our security, not reactive. There's so many times that we get involved with somebody and they're making sure that they're meeting compliance check marks. They're just checking the boxes, not actually making sure that they're secure. If we are secure, then we actually will meet compliance without doing it the other way around. The other way around doesn't necessarily happen. Just meeting the thing of having a piece of paper that says, here's what my incident response plan is, doesn't mean that it's a usable plan that I could actually do something with when something happens, like a global IT outage with, CrowdStrike,
Yes.
things like that are fresh on our minds. It may be that our plan just isn't useful for those things. And so it's really about making sure that we can find ways to do it. And like Aaron said, we need to start taking the first steps. I have even before I actually got into this business, there was actually working somewhere else and actually going and talking to a large credit union and asking them about security. They were like, it is just too big for us to get a handle on. We're just accepting the losses that happen. And that's not an acceptable answer. And so we need to, but you can absolutely feel that way, that it is just too big to get a handle on. And so we need to start taking those steps, and by being able to find folks who are in the same place on the journey, we can find those steps and we can start taking and walking those steps together and work our way through that. There we have a specific set of regulations and guidelines, and we have a plan worked out of what things to work on and in what order to start working our way to get better. And those are things we just need to start taking the first steps to do that. Back to one of the things we talked about before, when we were at CU Intersect last year, and I was standing there in the vendor hall talking with Ernie Chambers about different pieces there. Said, one of the things is within the new ICE program, within the InfoSec exam program, all of these things in this room, all of these products are needed and pretty much almost required, right? There are things that you just can't do this work manually. You need tools to be able to do these things. And so that's when he's like, so we've created unfunded mandates. And I'm like, that's really what we have.
A little bit, yeah.
So that's where we started trying to figure out what to do, whether we have a grant program or whether we have something else to be able to. And the thing that's making the most sense right now is to figure out how do we cut the price of being able to do some of this thing down to a place where it can be worked, where it can be used, right? So that we can split that and share that, and we can work on it together. This cohort idea is just a fantastic idea for being able to move those institutions forward with being able to actually afford the things that are really needed to happen, right? We already need these things. So how do we get to a point where we can make it where it meets our pocketbook, meets our budget, so that we can keep on moving and we can keep our members safe? That's really the goal at the end, is to be able to keep our members, our information, keep all of those things safe.
Definitely. And I think you make a great point, Steve. It's about, we essentially took our vCISO advisory program, right, and made it even more accessible to a larger group. And that's what I'm so excited about. I know, obviously, Aaron and I work with Steve. We know you, and we know how awesome you are and how awesome your team is, and how awesome our security team here at Pure IT. So I'm just so excited that more people are going to get to experience that and connect with you guys. I would be remiss, Steve, if I didn't ask you about your #CISO Steve world tour all throughout North America this summer. It has been so fun to keep up and see photos from your travels. I'm just so curious. How was that? Did you have a lot of fun? What was your favorite place?
So I had a lot of fun doing that. We just got home this morning. I was just looking. I think I'm at 17,300 miles that we
Oh my gosh.
rode during this whole thing. So 47 days on the road. I love traveling, but I got to tell you, sometimes the nomad life kind of wears on you. It'd be nice to stay someplace more than one day. But we pretty much didn't do that. We stayed in a different hotel or a different place every night. And that just does wear on you as you're going. But the places we saw, the grandeur of the things that are out there, it is amazing to see the things that are happening when the glaciers are melting up in Alaska, to what it is that the power of ice or glaciers to move mountains down the road to other different places, those kind of things, as well as going and seeing, even getting into the deserts, right? Being able to go through Utah and the Grand Canyon and seeing the grandeur of those different things that have happened, and looking at layers of rock and going and saying, all right, this one's 100 million, this is 200 million, this is 500 million, this is 1.5 billion years ago, right? It just, as we're working our way through, looking at the different layers and the different sediments that are going in there, and then just being able to experience that in nature, not doing it in a car, not with air conditioning, but actually getting to see what it's like in the state of Washington at 105 degrees. We got to get into the lower 48 in the middle of a heat wave, and so it was. Although that did help prepare us for when we were going through the Mojave and it was 119 degrees. We already got to start in where it was supposed to be cool. We already got to start where it was really hot, and then work our way to hotter and hotter as we were going, to finally having it be a reasonable 80 degrees when I got home to Houston. But very different climates in all the different areas, dealing with what it takes to do that. But I will absolutely, I'm planning to go back to Utah again next summer. Just, there are so many fascinating things that are there in the middle of the desert, in the middle of things there in Utah. Oh, and Aaron, we talked about once before about flooding that can happen in El Centro. When I was in El Centro and it rained and everyone was freaking out going through 29 Palms, they had graders on the road moving. They just had a big rainstorm and there was 2 feet of sand on the main street. They were literally pushing it was like snowplows pushing sand off, because there was nowhere for the water to go. It all comes there, but it brings all the sand with it, and then the water disappears, and now you're left with 2 feet of sand on the road. Things like that I just don't see unless I go to other places to be able to see them.
That's amazing. Well, Steve, thank you so much. I'm sure that you have many more stories from your travels, and I can't wait to hear more. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you guys for tuning in to learn more about our vCISO cohort program. I know we're super excited to share more, so stay tuned, and we'll catch you guys next time. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.